Thanks for tuning in on Leading Our Own Way here on YouTube. We're up to a point really where 2024 was a year that tested James Martin in ways he never imagined, right? A motorcycle accident, the chaos of starting multiple businesses, and the personal growth that come from it all. So here in part 4, James reflects on the turning points that reshaped his outlook on life and leadership and certainly relationships. It's raw, it's unfiltered reality of what it takes to keep pushing forward, I suppose, when everything feels uncertain. So here's James for part 4. Make sure you come back for part 5, and here all playlist 1 to 5 is ready for you whenever you choose. Enjoy. Before we get up to the what the fuck year, 2024.
Oh, that one. Yeah. Okay, yeah, that was last year.
I knew you'd remember. You flick around,
yeah.
You've landed on soil in Australia. What's the plan?
Yeah.
What do you do?
Well, the plan, so leading up to when I arrived in Australia, I was working 7 days a week, 12 hours a day. So I was working as many overtime shifts as I could. So I was working my regular 9 to 5. I was doing 3 hours of overtime in pretty much every evening. And there were usually 3 of us doing overtime, but I needed the money. So I suggested that one of the person just go home, and that the other 2 of us would basically take their paycheck and cut it in half. And for some stupid reason, our operations manager agreed to it. So I basically spent 5 days a week doing that, and then on weekends I'd sit on both the morning and the afternoon call-out shift. So I was working in like emergency gas services. So I pretty much just sat and smashed that for 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, and didn't really take a break for about 6 months. So by the time I landed in Australia, I was very much ready for a holiday. And that's exactly what I did. I took the money that I had, I saved up about £5,000, so about 10 grand Australian, and I blew most of it in the first month. This is kind of how I realized that Melbourne was so expensive. And then I flew up to Sydney for Christmas to go and see my older brother, who has moved back to London since, but he was up in Sydney at the time. And we did Christmas, and that was all great because it was the first time I got to see Sydney. And then I landed back in Melbourne just before the new year and went, shit, I'm running kind of low on cash. It's probably time I get a job. And yeah, this is pretty much my starting point. So I moved into my apartment and I got my job on the same day. And I've been in my apartment ever since. And I have definitely left that job a few times and a few years ago.
So you've been in the same apartment in Melbourne since you arrived?
Yep.
Oh, cool.
Yep. I moved out briefly for like 3 months during COVID and then came back.
Whereabouts are you?
It was not a good experience. I'm in Albert Park at the moment.
Oh, yeah, nice. I play basketball at Albert Park, MSAC.
Nice. Yeah, MSAC. Yeah, so I'm just down the road from MSAC pretty much. But it feels like home when I'm driving down, I was at Albert Road, or whatever that street's called, and you see the palm trees on one side.
Yeah.
And whenever I drive down there, even like pitch black, middle of the night, don't know where I am, phone doesn't work, I know that if I'm on that street, I'm near home. And funnily enough, the fact that I haven't moved out of my apartment means that this is the place I've now lived the longest.
Yeah. So you settled.
Life.
Okay, there you go. There's your purposes coming together. You've got your 3 businesses. You're settled in one place. You've got an identity. You've got a location. You've got a home. Making sense. Right. It's all falling into place. We're going to rattle that one very, very soon. I know that's going to kind of blow up in our faces here on the episode. But before we do come towards the 3 final questions and that part where it does blow up and some of the future plans that you've got, because that blew me away when you told me that as well. 2024, what the fuck year, filled with a few different things. Let's go there.
So 2024 was chaos. I have heard a few people say that 2024 was really great. That was not my experience. 2024 for me was the year that I had a motorcycle accident. It was the year that I started businesses. It was the year that I was fired. It's the year that I went through my last breakup. It was the year, so many more things. It's the year I went on holiday for like 6 weeks. It's the year I started my master's. It's where I kind of discovered hard work and long hours. Um, all of these things kind of happened somewhat simultaneously, and it was just chaos from start to end. It was awful. Um, it was. I, if I had the opportunity, if it wasn't for my fiance now, I would actually not want to remember 2024. If it could just be a blip that was taken out of my memory, I wouldn't be upset about it.
So
2024 is just chaos.
the accident then, how bad was the accident?
I fractured my collarbone in two places and got a concussion. So I was riding my motorcycle and I hit the side of a car that was turning across my lane, and I went flying over it and I landed on my shoulder. I was trying to do a judo roll, and I'm clearly just very much out of practice, and fractured my collarbone in two places and gave myself a concussion when I landed on my face. That was great.
Whose fault was it? Yours or his? The car?
No, it was hers.
Hers, sorry.
Yeah, it was hers. Yeah. She turned across the road and she wasn't supposed to be there. So by the time that I'd slowed down on a motorcycle, it's they don't brake as hard as cars do.
No.
Well, they do. They just slide a lot more. So it was about, would I rather go under the car or over the car? And my instincts just basically ended up going with over the car. Yes.
Was she distraught herself?
She barely really noticed that it happened. Even afterwards, when we went to obviously she stopped when it happened, but there was very little damage to her car. The front end of my motorcycle was basically crumpled. And I'd just gone over the side of her car, and she still tried to blame it on me. So, yeah, look, there are some people who are better than others. And there's the opposite. So.
Well, I hope you got compensation for that, mate. Jesus.
I did. Well, I wasn't actually allowed to work during that period of time because I was recovering. So actually, thanks to my recovery, I didn't have to go to work, but I could still earn, which meant that I could continue doing my masters, start my masters, because it only started like a couple of weeks prior to that. Wow. And so I started my masters in January, and then the accident happened mid-February. Yeah. So it was right in the middle of my first unit. This is so I got like the next 6 months signed off pretty much, and that's what really gave me enough time to kind of get into the whole masters thing, because without it, there's no way I would have survived the first 6 months.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So the rest in 2024. Well, I'm sorry that happened to you, by the way, but the rest of 2024, you met your partner.
I did. Yes. So I met my partner in. Oh, I'm sure she's going to correct me, but I want to say May 2024. So that was a little bit after I'd kind of started to recover from my accident. Things were starting to get back to normal, but at this point I was financially running on fumes, because I was, living off government Centrelink. So, fumes of fumes.
Yeah.
So things were very trying, but she was really helpful and very instrumental in helping me put my life back together, which was great. And cannot even possibly put into words how appreciative I am of that. And things kind of started to look up because I met her. It was the other stuff that kind of caused it to go off track was the businesses. So most people stop at one because they realize it's hard work. We kind of started too many too fast and didn't really realize what we got ourselves into, but kind of just knuckled through it anyway. But it was a lot of work. So, yeah, all of that stuff, the studying, the doing things like building, websites or whatever else, these were all things that had to be done. And at this point, we had no other staff in the business. So it was entirely done by us. And it was very time consuming. Mm-hmm. So, yes. Yeah, so 2024 was a bit chaotic.
Yeah, it definitely sounded it. I think there was something that was quite significant, that was a pivotal point in your life. You had a defining moment, and I remember it's just come back to me that we mentioned when I first met you. You had a defining moment regarding a bit of an embarrassing moment. I don't even remember you telling me that. Do you remember telling me that?
Was this me falling off a train?
Yes, it was, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, yes. Yes, my defining moment, yeah, one of my defining moments for sure. I would say that the other one was me realizing that I actually had a path to follow and I needed to follow it.
Mm.
Um, that defining moment in particular was very helpful socially, and just in my life in general. So a lot of people are very concerned with what other people think about them. I tripped off the edge of a train in Reading Station in the UK, and I fell over and my luggage went everywhere, and I picked myself up and I dusted myself off. And before that point, like when I was on the train, getting off the train, I cared about what people thought. And then once I fell over and I stood up, I realized that actually I was never going to see any of these people again, and therefore it didn't matter what they thought. And I've kind of carried that with me through my life, where there are very few people whose opinions of me that I care about.
Mm.
Right? So my parents make that cut, my fiance makes that cut, my business partner makes that cut. Some of my friends make that cut. Very few other people. Doesn't really matter to me. Whatever you think of me is whatever you think of me. And everyone has their own opinion, and you can't be liked by everybody.
Mm.
It's an impossible feat. So why bother?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Why try and be appreciated by everyone or loved by everyone when there's always someone who's going to have a problem with you? Just be who you're going to be. It's also the reason I never have anxiety, no matter how much else is going on in my life, because I've accepted that this is my reality, and so be it.
Have you ever had anxiety then?
Yeah, I did. Back in a few years ago, for something entirely unrelated to any of this. I had a brief anxiety attack that went on for like 2 days, and then after that I was fine. But that was relationship type stuff.
Yeah.
Nothing related to the actual course of my life.
Not to go back in time, because I know we're coming towards the end of the episode now, but I meant to ask you earlier, and it's just come back to me. When you were living in France, you said your mum was a teacher. Did you ever go to your mum's school when you were there, or did she send you off to another one?
I actually spent 6 months being taught English by my mum in the school.
Oh.
Yes. So my senior year of what's the school before high school?
Primary school?
The one before that.
Middle school?
Okay, maybe it was high school then. Yeah, it could have been middle school. I would have been I can't remember. What it would have been like 12, 13.
Yeah.
No, sorry. I would have been 14 at the time. It was the year before I went to boarding school. So yeah, I would have been about 14. My mum was the English teacher at the local high school, and I had just been expelled from the high school that I was at, that my stepdad was my ex-stepdad was running as principal.
So she worked for him?
And she worked for a different school. Oh. So I went to his school, and he and I did not get along. So I left and went to my dad's. And when I came back, I went to the school that my mum was working for as an English teacher, and I sat in the back of her English class for 6 months until I graduated. So yes, I have had my mum as a teacher.
That's insane.
Yeah.
So hold on then.
Yes.
How does that household look when your stepdad has just thrown you out of school, but you go home that night and he's there? Join us tomorrow to hear more from today's incredible guests and learn valuable insights to help you lead your own way. Don't forget to subscribe. We'll see you then.